This is the MHS Pawdcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS. I'm Eddie Kalegi.
And I'm Josh Hyman.
Well, we're back from spring break. Fourth cycle is here. Josh, this year moving so fast, we only have 5 more shows left this year.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty crazy. You know, the first day of school really feels like yesterday. It's kind of crazy how far we've come so far.
Well, Josh, speaking of crazy, it will be a very crazy day here on the MHS Podcast, as today's show stretches a variety of topics. To kick things off, after the school announcements, we will be having a political conversation with freshman Vegas Rockefeller and junior Alanna Redwood, who are leading Metuchen High School's efforts against gun violence. Then, Josh and I will look into 14 of the top standardized test-taking tips with Park and a variety of other standardized tests coming up on the horizon here in the next couple months, which Josh will talk about in the school announcements in just a moment. And finally, a great start on the diamond for the MHS baseball team. What's expected? We don't really know. Dylan Manfre is going to stop by for a few minutes to answer that question, and also to look into the team chemistry and who has led the way for this team in this strong start to the 2018 campaign. But first, Josh, take it away.
There's not much to talk about today, but we'll talk about testing. So, park testing begins next week, and testing continues through May 25th. Make sure to listen to your teachers and the announcements to find out when you're testing. Speaking of testing, ACT testing is Saturday morning, April 14th here at Metuchen High School. All students who are taking the test must be here at 8 a.m. Remember that Monday, April 30th is now full day of school as a makeup snow day. And finally, tune in live at 11 a.m. on Saturday, April 21st, as we will be broadcasting the baseball game between Metuchen and GMC foe Bishop R. Be sure to listen. That's all I've got. Back to you, Eddie.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh. Welcome back to the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School. I'm Eddie Kalegi.
And I'm Josh Hyman.
Nearly 2 months ago, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz opened fire at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, killing 17, including 14 students, 2 teachers, and the athletic director. Following this, demonstrations arose across the country, and some of the most prominent voices are those of fellow high school students. Today we will hear from a couple of those voices who are taking the step towards ending gun violence right here at Metuchen High School. It's great to welcome freshman Vegas Rockefeller and junior Alanna Redwood. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
All right, so first I want to ask each of you to tell us why you decided to take action and become involved with this.
Well, I decided to take action because I did not want another school shooting. I did not want one more student to die in their schools, which are deemed to be safe learning places. They can't be places where students can be scared of somebody coming into their school and open firing. So I felt like I had to take action to solve the problem.
All right, Alanna, is it similar to Vegas's approach?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way, and like I've been politically engaged for a while, like especially politically engaged for about a year now. Not so much when I was younger, and when I saw the impact that these high school students were having, I realized that this was a place where my voice was really powerful and where I could really make a change, and I definitely wanted to do that.
All right, so how did you guys get this started, and what adults and other people in the town have assisted you?
So it was kind of funny how we got it started. So I was in a car ride home from my grandparents, and my mom got an email about like possibly students doing stuff in town. So I was like, yeah, let's do it at the high school. So then I got some freshmen involved, and then Alanna was getting other like juniors and seniors involved, and then we were like, well, there's 2 things, let's just join them together. And then Alanna started a group me, and now we have about 250 members in that. So it's kind of like coming together and then making a great.
And you mentioned 250 people, so you've gotten a lot of people involved in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you guys remember, we had the moment of silence back in March and the sale of t-shirts, so what else do you plan on doing?
Well, there's going to be the walkout on April 20th. It'll be 17 minutes. We're having it a little bit later in the day than the national walkout because there will be park testing. And then after school on the same day, there's going to be a march to Martin Luther King Park and a rally there.
Very interesting. All right, so now obviously the gun control issue is very controversial, and there's differing viewpoints on it. So I want to get some of yours. So the first question I want to ask you guys is, do you feel that the gun control debate is more about politics or ethics?
Oh gosh, I think it's definitely a combination of the two. I mean, it's such a screamy debate, but it's also a very policy-heavy debate. Like, a lot of gun control policy should depend on statistics and facts, but I mean, not entirely due to the fault of the population. We don't really pay much attention to that, partially because, like, for example, the CDC was until very recently banned from researching gun control. But I think it should be about, I think it is about both and it should be about both, but often in the wrong ways.
All right, so people often point fingers about the subject, and obviously, since politicians are the people who make the laws, they can be the center of the blame. But I want to ask you guys if you feel, because this is something that I always think, that there are movies, there's TV shows, there's video games that promote gun violence and stuff like that. Do you think that could be part of the blame? And if not, is there any other centers of the blame aside from politicians?
I'm not 100% sure whether or not that is part of the problem, but I could see it definitely being the problem, although some studies have shown that it's not, and others have shown that it is. So it's really kind of controversial in that aspect.
So, there are reports that there are over 115 million guns in the United States. 1/3 of them are in the United States illegally. If laws are passed to ban certain weapons, what would happen with the 50 million out there legally? What else can be done to completely end the risk of a mass shooting?
Well, to end the risk of a mass shooting is very challenging. It won't happen very quickly. It takes a lot of time. For example, in Australia or Japan, it took a long time to reduce the amount of gun violence. So in New Jersey, in the New Jersey State Assembly, we passed 6 gun control bills that went from cop killer bullets, which are bullets that can pierce through like 46 layers of Kevlar, to background checks for like personal gun sales. So definitely taking steps there and passing all of those bills, and then in states, and then having other states follow it, and then eventually national, we can eventually get to stopping it.
And as to the thing about what would happen with illegal guns, I mean, that depends on the policy. Like, we are not legislators. That's not for us to decide. We can have our opinions. Like, personally, I don't think that forcing people to forfeit their guns would be very effective, even if it is, regardless of what you think about whether or not it's the right thing to do. I just don't think it would work. But yeah, there are a lot of differing opinions on what should happen there.
So, and for somebody in the school who wants to speak out against gun violence but is afraid, what would you say to them, and how would you convince them to let their voice be heard?
I would say, please come to our meeting. We have a meeting on Thursday, which is tomorrow, April 12th. So if you want your voice to be heard, please come out tomorrow. Share your voice. We're open to everything, and then we'll decide on what would work best. So please come out tomorrow.
All right, so where is the meeting tomorrow?
Tomorrow, our meeting will be in the cafeteria, and we will have a special guest his name is Diego, and he's actually from Parkland, so we would be Skyping into him, and he will talk to us about his experiences and kind of like give us a pep talk and stuff.
All right, well, you guys, along with a few others, are doing a really great job with this, and it's very admirable that high school students are speaking out against something that hurt high schoolers, and now we've got other high schoolers going with them and helping them. So best of luck to you guys continuing this.
Thank you.
All right, so when we come back, Josh and I will be talking about 14 standardized testing tips, and Dylan Manfre will join us to talk about the hot start from the Metuchen High School baseball team. I'm Eddie Kalegi.
And I'm Josh Hyman.
And this is the MHS Pawdcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School. Insurance. It's a commodity. It shouldn't be an impulse buy. Purchasing the right insurance takes time, and it must be fitted for your goals and your lifestyle. Farmers Insurance likes to do it right. They invite you to sit back, have some coffee, and relax. They listen to your needs, desires, and dreams, and shape an insurance policy just for you. An old-fashioned take on insurance? Possibly, but it's been working for agents and clients alike for years. Visit your local agent, Ed Van Eckert, today at 54 Pearl Street, right here in Metuchen, or call 732-548-4444 for a free quote. Ed's #1 concern is Metuchen. Once again, that's 732-548-4444 4444 or at 54 Pearl Street in Metuchen. Farmers, making the brainy borough smarter about insurance.
We are farmers. Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum.
Having trouble seeing the board in class? Do you need safety glasses for your school sport? If you answered yes to either of these questions, head over to Optique Unique, the eyeglass store at 406 Main Street in Metuchen. Optique Unique does it all. Not only do they offer eyewear for all ages, they also sell sports-specific safety glasses for kids and adults. Call them at 732-321-2020. That's 732-321-2020, or visit OptiqueUnique.com. Do you want to build character, build confidence, or even build yourself? All that and more can be accomplished at the Black Belt Institute at 23 New Street, right here in Metuchen. Students of all ages have been able to learn respect, discipline, fitness, and self-defense from their experienced instructors for over 20 years. Whether you're an adult looking for stress reduction or know someone young who has interest in Taekwondo, the Black Belt Institute is the place to go. The Institute takes a fun approach at teaching the rules of self-defense, instilling in their students an I-can-do-it attitude. Interested in taking a class? Call them at 732-205-9797 or visit their website at blackbeltinst.com. Once again, that's 732-205-9797 or blackbeltinst.com. The Black Belt Institute, Metuchen's leader in martial arts and fitness.
Let's give a thank you to some of our sponsors. Thank you to What's the Scoop, Reflections on Main, the Main Street Barbershop, and the Metuchen Savings Bank. None of this would be possible without the help of these businesses.
Welcome back to the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS. I'm Eddie Kalegi.
And I'm Josh Hyman.
Well, it's April, and you know what that means, Josh. Standardized testing season begins.
Don't remind me.
With a lot riding on several of these tests, it's important to be ready. So from fastweb.com, here are 14 of the top standardized test-taking tips from long before the test, stretching all the way through test day. So number one is practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the more familiar you'll be with the test format, and less likely you are to panic when you are taking the test for real. Practice also gives you an opportunity to get rid of all the bad habits that lead you to careless errors. The more you practice, the more likely you are to recognize careless errors. Try to practice with practice tests under realistic testing conditions. Obviously, this is something important. Practicing for some of these bigger tests, ACT, SAT, definitely important.
Yeah, definitely important that you familiarize yourself with how the test is, structured, what might be on it, so you don't, if you get a bad grade in the practice test, you can just take another practice test. If you get a bad grade on, these standardized testing, these cost a lot of money to retake, and you might not really want to pay for a test if you just get a bad grade that you want to change.
All right, so number two, also key to avoid having to take a second time. Studying for the test over an extended period is more effective than cramming for the test at the last minute. That's pretty obvious. One of the best ways to build your vocabulary and understanding of current events is to read a daily newspaper. It is best to start doing this as a high school freshman, but even a few months of close reading can help, probably more so than memorizing vocabulary lists. It's important to understand the meaning of a word in real context. Word-a-day drills are only effective to the extent that they provide memorable examples of the word's use in context. So that's an interesting one about reading the newspaper and how that's going to help you build your vocabulary, because there's not as much of the old SAT lists anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it is definitely important. Like, you could memorize thousands of words, but if you don't know what they mean, they're useless. Like, one thing I like to do is, if I'm not really sure of the context of the word, you just go into Google, type in the word, then go to news, and it should give you a bunch of article titles that have that word in the sentence. That could really help give you, what context is this word used. That's what I use. It's pretty helpful.
That's a good tip. Number three, bring 2 sharpened soft lead number 2 pencils with you to the test. Make sure they have good erasers and a sharpener. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Number 4, this is probably something that's been said many times to you in the past. Eat a good breakfast the morning of the test. Avoid eating sugary foods. High-protein foods like scrambled eggs are often the best for aiding concentration and minimizing fatigue. Number 5, visit the bathroom 15 to 30 minutes before the test. Do not drink water or other beverages for an hour before the test, as a full bladder will affect your concentration.
Yeah, and some tests in some schools might not even let you go to the bathroom, so that's always a good idea to do it when you're allowed to.
Number 6, like the breakfast one, is something you've probably been told many times before. Get a full night's sleep before the test. Do not pull an all-nighter cramming before the test. A lack of sleep will affect your performance. Number 7 is an interesting one. Wear comfortable clothing, but obviously this thing is centered towards distraction and keeping your concentration.
Because if you have like a really tight shirt that you're always fidgeting with, you can't really concentrate. If you have like fringes on your shirt or pants or something like that you're fiddling with, you're not concentrating on your questions. That actually makes a lot of sense.
All right, number 8 is don't panic. If you start getting anxious, take slow, deep breaths. Don't worry about other people finishing early. Smart people know to use all available time to double-check their work. I mean, that is something that I think kids can apply to any test. When people start finishing, you start feeling like you have to finish too right away.
Yeah, definitely. There's no extra... You don't get extra points for finishing first. You get points for finishing well. So if you finish 30 minutes early, use those 30 minutes, because you're not going to get penalized if you turn it in right at the very end of your testing period. So just take as much time as you need to just, be careful, make sure that you're getting everything right. If you need to, just go slow the first time so you don't make any careless errors.
Because, I've had this experience before in numerous tests, not just standardized tests. When you finish, and then there's 10 kids all staring at each other, waiting who's going to go up first, and then when that one person finally is brave enough to go, then 10 kids go storming up to hand it in at one time.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
All right, so number 9 is pace yourself. Calculate the amount of time you have to answer each question and avoid getting bogged down on any certain one question. A watch with a countdown timer can be very helpful for budgeting your time. You might also take a minute at the start of the test to scan through the questions so you can know what to expect. I read this thing before yesterday. I don't know. To me, I feel like that's an extra distraction. Worrying about a watch and a countdown timer.
And then like pressuring yourself to finish the question in that time. Some questions do take shorter than others. So just if you take maybe a minute on one question but 3 minutes on the other, it still balances out to two minutes each. So.
Number 10 is what anyone who is going to help you out with a standardized test would say. Answer the easiest questions first. Most tests arrange the questions in order of difficulty, but sometimes you'll find the later questions are easier for you. If you're stuck on a question, move on to the next one. You can always return to the question later. Sometimes returning to a question after answering others can give you a fresh perspective. Obviously, that is something important for this.
Yeah, I've done it many times. I've been taking a test, there's like a word I don't know or a formula I don't know, and then it's in the later question. So you can always just look at the later question. Sometimes it'll answer that question for you, and that's really helpful.
Number 11, if you have time left over at the end of the test, review your answers. Don't second guess an answer unless you are certain that you misread or misinterpreted the question. Watch out for careless errors. Also, double check that you wrote all of the answers in the correct locations. If you skipped a question, make sure you didn't misalign the answer to the next question. That's something very important, because that could just lead you to downfall.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea how many times I've accidentally skipped a question and then put all the answers in the wrong bubbles, and then you just have to go and erase everything, and you just gotta hope that the computer doesn't pick it up. Yeah, it's better to just avoid that altogether.
Alright, so for math questions, sometimes it can help to calculate the answer in 2 different ways. Also use estimation techniques to ballpark the answer as a sanity check. For example, instead of multiplying 412 by 24 to arrive at 9888, multiply the most significant digits, so 420 to arrive at 8,000. Now the one thing that this actually I think about, because a lot of these standardized tests are multiple choice, and you could easily eliminate some answers from that.
Yeah, definitely on multiple choice questions this would be better, but on open-ended questions you're better off just actually doing 412 by 24. But yeah, this is actually a pretty good strategy, seeing where the possible answers are if, the 4 possible answers are very different.
Alright, so number 12, read the question in full before trying to answer it. At least some of the answer choices will be designed to trap students who don't read the question fully. Also identify the answer first before looking at the answer choices. Since some of the choices will be designed to prime you into misinterpreting the question, don't jump to conclusions. That's another obvious one. Number 13, eliminate any answers that you know are incorrect, especially on questions where you are having trouble arriving at the answer. Eliminating a few wrong answers can increase the chances of a random guess being correct. The ACT does not have a penalty for wrong answers, so there's no harm in guessing. The SAT assesses a 1 out of 4 point penalty for each wrong answer, so purely random guess will not improve your score on average. However, if you can eliminate one or more of the answers, making an educated guess among the remaining answers is worthwhile. So definitely, if you eliminate one answer, there's more of a likelihood you're going to get it right, even if you guess.
Yeah, plus if you're having a tough time understanding the questions or some of the answers, eliminating the answers that you know are wrong can help get rid of some of the confusion, because you don't have as much to look at in front of you, and you don't have to think a lot. You don't have to think about 4 possible answers, you can only think about 2. That's going to make it a lot easier for you to take the guess.
Alright, number 14, consider all the answer choices before writing down your final answer. If one of the answers is an all of the above choice, make sure there isn't more than one correct answer. If you've identified at least 2 correct answers, choose the all of the above response. So that's definitely something important. When you see that all of the above, look into that question a little more.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's either going to obviously be 3 correct answers, or there's going to be 1 and 2 that are there to trick you. But yeah.
So if you see an all of the above, just read all of the answers very carefully, because it could be one really obvious, like you said, and then one really like obscure, really specific answer that's true as well.
Alright, so for anyone taking standardized tests soon, which pretty much is the entire student body, hopefully these tips will help you out. So Dylan Manfre will be joining us next here on the MHS Pawdcast. Things are looking bright for the Metuchen boys baseball team after a strong start to 2018. To talk about this amazing start, it's great to be joined once again by sports contributor Dylan Manfre. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, Eddie?
Nothing much, but a lot is going on here for the Metuchen boys baseball team. They've started 2-0 with a couple of strong home victories. What sparked them? Is it the offense, the pitching, or is it a combo of both?
I really think it's a combo of both. We've seen a lot of great play in the defense from Jay, Harry. Evan Director's been doing a very good job at the catcher spot, now in the full starting role after taking over that position from Kyle Harry, who graduated last year. So I think Metuchen defense is doing very well. They're returning a lot of the entire pitching staff. Mike Lipchinski, who had a very strong outing against South River in their 10-0 Mercy Rule victory last Friday. Matt Volpe had a strong start in their first game against North Brunswick. Did give up a little bit of the lead, coming back from, I think it was 5-2 Metuchen. Matt Volpe, I think in the 6th inning, big 6th inning there for North Brunswick and Metuchen. In the bottom of the 6th inning, Metuchen's entire lineup went up to bat, and Gavin Abrams, who is in their leadoff spot, went up twice that inning. Matt Volpe had a very strong outing, and again, like I said, even though he gave up those 3 runs in the 6th inning, I believe, we still got the win 9-5 at the end of it all to win against a very big Group 4 school. It's a great experience, even though it's, because it's against a team, you don't commonly see in North Brunswick, because Metuchen now is a Group 2 school, North Brunswick being Group 4. Also, they're not in the GNC Blue Division.
Alright, so it's not just the seniors getting it done for Metuchen. Who are some of the other sophomores and even freshmen making their names heard early in the season?
Well, in the first game of the season, Matt Rowe, who's a freshman, along with Gavin Abrams, who was also a freshman, got their first hits of their varsity and high school career. And in the second game of the year against South River, Matt Rowe had 4 RBI. Matt Rowe is something else. You better remember his name. Matt Rowe, number 6. The redhead. This kid is something special, and it's only going to go up from here for him, along with Gavin Abrams. Gavin Abrams, we saw on the mound against South River, close it out after Metuchen pulled Mike Lapp, I think, in the top 6 inning, or top 5, I believe. But Gavin Abrams stepped in to the mound to close out the game and did a very good job in doing so. I think that it's only going to go up from here for both of them. And, I was a little surprised seeing Gavin Abrams in the leadoff spot, but I think he's doing a very good job once he calms down. And that's a big thing that Coach Danik wants to, get across to both of them. Slow down, take your pitch. Matt Rowe was up in the, I think it was against North Brunswick. He was up in the count 3-0. He swung at a pitch close to his head. We understand he's a freshman. We understand he's getting accustomed to this, but you also have to find your pitch and make sure you find what's yours, and have good plate vision. And that's only going to improve over time for both of them.
All right, so what do these early victories say about Metuchen's chemistry as a team?
They have a very close-knit unit of guys on this team here. There's a lot of chatter in the dugout led by Will Haranich, Jay Harry, saying a lot of the hum nows and getting a little chatter on the bench, making things lively. I think it's very fun to see. Also, these victories are giving them a lot of confidence, heading into these other GMC games, against the Spotswoods of the world, Middlesexes, who, those games are going to be big. Starting out 2-0 with a game against a big Group 4 school in North Brunswick, getting that win is a big confidence booster because it shows they can contend with some of the big guys in the GMC, not just the Blue Division. There are some Group 4 schools in the Blue Division. I think New Brunswick is a Group 4 school, I believe. That might be wrong too, actually. I'm not entirely too sure. But Metuchen getting that win against North Brunswick was a big confidence booster, and also another one against South River. It was the first time starting out at 2-0 since, I believe, 2014. The current seniors on the roster were then freshmen at the time.
Now, you've been covering the team for a while, so I want to ask you, did you see this success coming early in the season? And with some major tests coming up, do you think that this success can continue?
I do believe the success can continue. They're just going to take it each game at a time. Coach Danik always says you're always good as your last win, and right now you're pretty good. So, with that being said, I do think they can continue the momentum. They have the pieces of the puzzle to do that, and it's only a matter of time before they take these next couple of games. And like I said, the way the schedule works out, they have a lot of big division games earlier on in the year against, like I said, Spotswood, Bishop Bar, and Middlesex. They're not going to have to wait until, the later half of the season to play them. And with that, they're going to get them out of the way early. They're going to find the kinks in their offense and defense early, and really just be able to get those out of their system.
All right, Dylan Manfre, thanks for joining us here on the MHS Podcast.
No problem. Thanks, Eddie.
All right, a thank you to Dylan, to Alanna, Redwood, to Vegas, Rockefeller, and of course to Ms. Wisniewski, our club advisor, and Ms. Glade for providing the space. We hope everyone enjoyed.